Welcome to Muscular Minds Podcast, where we want to build mental toughness and resilience for you, your family, your faith, and your future. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Welcome into Muscular Minds. This is Jared Dane, your host, and we are live today with our video podcast, one of our first ones, and we are excited to have a guest, Dr. Chris Chappotin. He is a superintendent of schools in Texas, which is where I also reside, great state of Texas here. And we are going to talk today just about some of the challenges that go with education. One of the things we do on Muscular Minds is we talk about mental resilience, fitness, confidence, and those things are under assault sometimes when we're in a school district, when we're a kid trying to do middle school, we're getting bullied in elementary, and it's tough. And I've got a wife who's a teacher for many years, and the classrooms, it's a challenge to be resilient as an educator. If you have a kid in school, if you are a parent, you know, the homework, the messages, trying to keep up what your kids are doing at school and just trying to balance all that, it's a lot. So I think today is a good opportunity to talk to somebody who has their arms around all of these things. And so we have Dr. Chappotin here today to talk about this, but I want to start with one question. Dr. Chappotin, tell me how you became interested in desirous of even working with students.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for having me on the Muscular Minds podcast. I would tell you that my interest in working with students, honestly, started with you. When I was a middle school kid trying to find my way back in 1990, whenever that was.
Careful with that, careful with.
You know, we connected over, I don't know, probably over definitely over basketball, but then being in a lot of the same classes, et cetera. And as that friendship began, you know, you seem to, especially from middle school through college, invite and call me into more. And oftentimes that more was working with serving people. So whether that was at school, whether that was in the local church, you know, once it was in college, it was service to underprivileged neighborhoods in the town that we went to college. And really from there, I think I discovered in myself a passion for service, a passion for trying to help leave people and places better than I found them, and a connection to, you know, expanding love, care, service, friendship, sacrifice, you know, with the folks that we shared life with. And so, honestly, I would say that passion, I think maybe that passion and some of those skills were there, but you were probably one of the first people to really help me step into it and discover and live into some of that stuff that then in turn ended up really becoming what my life work has been about, whether it's been in public education or in other occupational fields. It's still been about serving families in particular, students as well, and the cities in which they live.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I certainly feel like your work and support has been rewarded over the years, and I think a well-earned position as superintendent. And I was thinking about, you mentioned when we did some work with some inner city students in college and just the challenges that went with that. And I remember whether it was just, you know, transportation was an issue sometimes with these children. Sometimes there's domestic violence or even violence in those neighborhoods and communities. Sometimes we're dealing with kids that hadn't maybe had a meal that day. And so there was just a lot of challenges. And so maybe if you're thinking 2025, if we're thinking not just Texas, but throughout the United States, but specifically in our great state, what are kids and families, what are some of the biggest challenges facing students right now?
You know, sometimes I think that the challenges may look different, or the expressions of those challenges may take on different expressions given different time periods. But I don't know. I think I'm more and more convinced in myself and in like those that I work with, serve with, you know, live life with, et cetera. Identity has been a core human struggle from day one, and identity continues to be a core human struggle for humans of all ages, and especially our kids. You know, it would probably be easy for me to come on here and talk about social media or talk about you know, the challenge of building friendships at young ages, or the challenges of, you know, considering other people better than yourself, or trying to find your niche in a school or a school system, you know, the ongoing things, some of them very good and some of them maybe not so good, that are competing for our kids' time. All of those things. I just think those are expressions oftentimes of our core challenge, which is who am I? And as a result of who I am, what is it that my life should look like.
So I love that identity idea. I think I certainly can embrace middle school. It was a difficult identity time for me. Seventh grade, I probably don't even think I had one friend. And then I moved to Texas, and so yeah, I think identity is a big one. In 2025, if I'm a student, my identity probably is made up to some extent with social media online, not just my school friends and the people around it. It's going to be bigger than that. Which potentially, when I think from a resiliency mental health standpoint, that's where the risk comes in because I could go home from school in the 90s and shut it down, but now you go home from school and it's there waiting for you on your phone, whether it's a group chat or a social media post. Or a video that was taken at school, and it's just kind of relentless. So I think that identity kind of can be propped up in a good way or torn down in a bad way even quicker. I don't know how you feel about that, but I definitely observed that in 2025 with students and some of the ones I do work with.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not waiting for you when you get home. Like you're taking it with you everywhere you go, or at least if you allow it. And so, that identity, maybe one way of looking at it is that there's a lot of competing forces trying to speak into what that identity actually is. The cell phone has a lot of positives that come with it, but one of the challenges being that depending on how your notification settings work, there's a constant bombardment all the time. And the dopamine hit associated with picking that thing up. And oftentimes it seems like a cycle that never ends, especially when you may not have the maturity or the personal development by which to set boundaries, et cetera. One of the things that the 89th Texas legislature passed this summer was essentially, as far as I understand it right now, because we're still learning, a lot of the bills that were passed and what it's supposed to look like. But my understanding at this time is that the cell phone is to be put up from during instructional time at school. I think speaking from my own experience as a parent, as well as my occupation in life, there is so much of the child or student's experience, if we allow it, that occurs on the phone. And sometimes we talk about how kids struggle to communicate face to face, or even young adults struggle when maybe they enter the workforce and have to do things like give presentations or interview skills or things like that. And so as a parent and as a school personnel, I think it's challenging to appropriately be able to monitor and be a part of while you're also attempting to help this young person grow into a young adult and grow responsibility and honesty and transparency and also time management and things of that nature. And so, we just got our sixth grader a phone not too long ago, a few months ago. And you know, there's the parent side, which is, hey, this will allow us, he's in middle school now. This will allow contact after school. If we need to pick him up from a sports practice, or if you were at a friend's house, or it just allows for some connection, communication now that he's getting a little older. But at the same time, trying to manage some of the other things that it opens up, and the permissions and the app approvals and those kinds of things. It does introduce some administration into our lives as well, to try to help him grow in using the device responsibly. I'm always going to start with loving kids. Any other profession, has its ups and downs, has its challenges, and has, some folks that made poor decisions or struggled or whatnot, but that doesn't define the whole. And I know, what I see is educators who are giving their all for their students, who are oftentimes involved in the lives of their students and their families outside of the school day, who are up and at it early and closing it down late and doing any and everything they can to help the next generation in our district take flight into life after high school, but also grow while they're with us in the nest. And so I would say I would definitely start with that. I would also say we are learning to do individualization well. And what I mean by that is when you and I were in school, I think oftentimes the lesson did not take maybe a different shape or a different twist as much based on the need of the student. And I think we've long been in an educational world where we can't we cannot not do that any longer. But the challenge is knowing our students well enough to meet them where they are. All of them are with math, reading, science, and social studies. We can't say thank you enough, and continue to support and love on our teachers enough as that environment becomes more and more the norm. I think another thing that we're doing well is post-secondary readiness, if you will. I'm seeing more and more districts that are diving into career and technological education. They're diving into college, career, military readiness, and coming up with very creative ideas to provide incredible experiences for students. And so you're seeing kind of an acceleration, I think, of students that are exiting high school with industry-based certifications or with apprenticeship experience, where they're able to either step into college or step into the workforce, whatever it is that they want to do post-secondary. I'm hopeful that we are doing well and continuously improve at teaching kids how to function or operate as in team environments. Because I think resiliency can come with common mission, common bonding around common goals, and finding the right niche or the right role by which to help a team accomplish those goals. And our students who maybe struggle a little bit more and need reteaching in various forms, we're not leaving either group behind, but helping again meet them where they are, which I think builds resiliency over time because they're not left to struggle with the content on their own and either give up or just kind of move on to something else they're more interested in. I hope one of the ways to shift from students to adults for a second, I hope one of the ways we're building resiliency in adults is by celebrating their work. So, like one of the things that we do is we call it elevation celebration, and a staff member can nominate another staff member. And we show up unannounced, complete surprise with some party in the USA, Miley Cyrus on a portable speaker, and we bust into whatever's happening, assuming they're not, in a testing environment or something like that. And we've got a little gold chain with a 3D printed eagle. We do a certificate. We do a drawing for a gift card. We do social media to shout out the teacher. That's one of our ways of saying you're seen, you're having a positive impact, keep going, keep sacrificing. People are experiencing positive change, growth, and learning because of the sacrifices that you're making. It ends up being a lot of fun, and I'm hopeful builds resilience over time because we've created a system more or less for adults to recognize each other. So yeah, I think right now what's building resilience in me is I'm a first time superintendent. So I'm almost 8 months into a first time superintendency. And so I'm learning a context while I'm also learning the job, while I'm also learning an organization and how to maximize and grow the organization. While I've moved my family to be a part of this endeavor because that's how we do life. My wife works for the district, so she's learning a context as well. My kids go to the district, so they're learning new schools and new friends and new life rhythms, and kind of all of that is growing us and growing our resiliency to continue to press forward. Like any other occupation or any other family, there are some days that you're on the mountaintop, and there are other days that you're walking through the valley, but continuing to press forward, continuing to rely on the teams that we're a part of, and continuing to be a part of celebrations and encouragement, needing to receive that ourselves, I think is building resiliency in us and helping us find and give stability and consistency and dependability and excitement and snowball that over time into organizational development, which ultimately leads to helping kids do and become, what they want to do and become. Part of the reason that I started with identity on your very first question was because I think that's that's really core to humans as individuals, but also to organizations. And so part of our adjustment or kind of first season of life in a new place with a new district and new people has been doing some identity work. What is it that we're actually about, and what are the priorities of being about that, and therefore what are the high leverage actions that are going to help us live into our identity and accomplish the things that reflect our identity. So I think there's resiliency built up in all of that because it's a daily challenge, and some days you take 3 steps forward and some days you take 3 steps back, but you keep focused on your identity and therefore the goals associated with it, and remain resilient to accomplish those goals.
Thanks for joining Muscular Minds today, where strength isn't measured by how much you lift, but who you lift up. And that starts with you.